saw a really cool handout on my way out. So I'm sealing one.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
We have everybody back. You want to go ahead and give me the microphone on? Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely on. So we are about to begin. If you are out there in the commons and you are procrastinating coming in here and you want to join us for the forum, please come inside. And then we're going to have to close the door because you're very noisy. So if you're coming inside, do it now. So, welcome to our forum on self-care and community care. I'm Reverend Sara. I use she, her pronouns. This forum is both in person here in the room, and it's also on Zoom and streaming to YouTube, and it will be recorded as well. So thank you for being here. We'll close the... Tori, would you mind closing the doors? Thank you so much. Our folks are having a good time out there with the coffee hour. So we begin, as we like to do, by lighting a chalice. And I have chalice lighting words that are by Reverend Bob Jonas Dillon. Here within these walls, here in this community of love and justice, we pause in our busy lives to consider what is worthy of our deepest yearnings. In the time we are given here, may we pay attention to wonder. May we pay attention to each moment. May we grieve what is lost. And may we be grateful for our life on this beautiful earth. So, Carpen, if you could put the slides up. The topic of self-care, community care, we definitely need this right now. We need it all the time, but we definitely need it right now. So part of why we need it is these cartoons. Now, these are stock photos that I got by Googling overwhelmed person. And I will say that the stock photo, the clip art is sexist. But this is what came up by just Googling overwhelmed people. So we can see there's some of the reasons why we're overwhelmed. And then the next slide shows another cartoon that came up for overwhelmed people. So this is another reason why we might feel overwhelmed. If you can't read the waves, it's a wave of COVID-19 followed by a bigger wave of recession, followed by a bigger wave of climate change. And then one more. A lot of us are like this. We're just trying to say this is fine, but it really isn't. So these are the reasons why we need to talk about this topic today, self-care, community care. Self-care has become a bit of, it's definitely been co-opted and commercialized. So self-care at this point, you go to the store and buy some bubble bath, or self-care is a spa appointment, or self-care, though, as a phrase, has radical roots in the 70s and 80s. Audre Lorde, feminist poet, said, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." When we need to maintain our existence against an oppressive system, self-care is a radical act. And so I want to reclaim self-care away from the commercialized direction. I also, though, want to say that the other way that it's been co-opted is that it's placing the burden on the individual. So while, yes, we need to attend to our own self-preservation, when people see somebody stressed out and they're like, what's your self-care routine? That's just saying to a person who already has all of those overwhelms, why don't you do more? Yeah, what's your self-care routine? Are you remembering to do X, Y, Z? How about if you get up earlier and add in some yoga in the morning? That'll help. Yeah. So the way that it places the burden on people is another way for us to avoid making systems that actually take better care of everyone. And that goes with our whole individualized society. Can I have the next slide, Carbon? So here's some ideas that I have for healthy self-care. I think self-care can look like more health-care. You know, sometimes that's not the fun self-care. I tell myself when I go to the dentist, I'm like, this is your self-care. You have to do this. I'm like, oh, I hate going to the dentist. But it's important self-care. More rest, more joy, more love, more healthy boundaries. It could look like less stuff also. And I put choice on there because I just get choice fatigue, right? There's so many things to choose. What are we going to have for dinner again tonight? Why do we have to choose what's for dinner every single day of our lives? Yeah. Less juggling, less distraction, less numbing, less addictions. That goes with numbing. That's often what gets us to the numbing place. So what else? I'll bring the microphone around, or if you're online, you can put ideas in the chat, or you can raise your virtual hand and Carbon will bring you into the room. But what else might contribute more or less, might help us with our self-care? Any other ideas?
I was thinking, well, anticipating this as listening to the sermon today and thinking about that attention and paying attention to ourselves and really trying to think more deeply about what do I need, not just sort of like what can I grab quickly. So that whole idea of paying attention, I think, is critical. And then also sort of individualizing it. So paying attention to what does my body, what does my spirit need, not kind of what do I see other people doing.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Tori. What online, Carbon? More time in nature. Yes, nature is very healing.
This one also goes along with the sermon today about noticing and tuning in. Lately, I've been just in my day-to-day life, just trying to figure out how can I make this task more cozy. So I'm still doing my work task or I'm doing my household tasks, but I might change the lighting. I might bring a stool while I'm cutting the vegetables with a cozy cushion, with a soft cushion on it, and sit down while I'm doing that task. Or I might light a candle and turn off the overhead light and put on a side lamp to make the environment more cozy while I do the task that I'm doing, rather than just forging ahead and not noticing how I'm feeling about it.
I like that. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be cozy. It occurs to me that people might want to do things in disco mode, or they might want to do things, not just cozy. Yeah. Another online? Yeah. Singing and creating music with others. Yes. Nature, music, singing, definitely. Okay. Next.
An important one for me, I think, is not monitoring myself so much around others, like not having to police the way I stand or my facial expressions, just letting myself have a resting bitch face or fidget as much as I want, and trying not to care about if other people think I'm weird. That's self-care to me. Kind of tagging off of what you said about not caring as much about what the room thinks of you.
Yeah, that's a great one. Did you have one, John?
In the food realm, I'd say more vegetables, less sugar.
Yeah. And another online. More spontaneous dance parties. Yes. So there was a side comment, you're no fun. I do want to bring that up a little bit. Sometimes self-care is fun, sometimes it isn't. And so we can get into the catch of either making it too serious all the time or making it like not doing the things that are serious. So there's some sort of middle ground that you're going to find the right mix just for yourself. Yeah. Any other ideas while we're on this? Another online? But being serious, though, amen to living your beautiful, complicated, weirdo self. Absolutely. Just remaining weird. One more, okay.
I think also for me anyway, it's helpful to think of it sort of in layers of like, what can I do right now in 30 seconds, in 5 minutes, in half an hour? But then maybe, again, getting to that intention, digging a little bit deeper about like, are there kind of bigger changes I need to make in my life or whatever? So sort of having sort of a toolkit or ideas that match kind of different lengths of time and energy.
That's a great point.
Living in the Northwest with our winters, if it's sunny outside, I'm not going to be inside doing work.
Yeah. Take advantage of the sun when it's there. On that note, thank you for being inside right now while the sun is out. Yeah. Could I have the next slide, Carvin? So I wanted to move a little bit to community care, and there's a lot of overlap. So if we have more thoughts on self-care, don't stop bringing them up. But community care is the idea that the community, everyone is taking care of everyone else. And this also has radical roots in marginalized communities needing to come together, again, to take care of one another when there's an overall system that is not conducive to their well-being. So this is a picture from the Black Panthers Free Breakfast Program, which is an example of community care. And next slide, Carvin. So again, ideas for community care. I thought more caring and sharing, more attention to collective liberation, more mutuality and more solidarity, less keeping up with one another, less performative perfectionism, less competition, and less scarcity mindset. But what else would you add to this list?
The thing that popped in my mind right away is talking to strangers in the street.
And you put that in the more column, more talking? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how do we take care of each other if we won't even talk to each other? Yeah.
I think just being friendly to people on the street, smiling, and also not. Pardon?
Keep it a little bit closer.
Oh, yeah. And also, I'm 93, my brain's slow. But just as I go out, not to take my burdens out and complain, but go out cheerfully and try to help others come out and be cheerful and feel happy.
Yeah, so more friendliness with others. And when you go out, not taking your burdens out on others, but trying to be friendly. Yeah, absolutely. And I see that during like the holiday season, there's the like grumpiness is contagious, but cheerfulness is also contagious. So when we go out into the community, we can change the tone by what we're bringing into it. Something online? Paying attention to where we're going physically and metaphysically. Yeah. Those are great. Anything else?
kind of the other side of what I was saying earlier, being more of your weird self. I feel like a lot of us are this isn't something we can really get rid of. We're always going to look at others with a bit of judgment in our minds. And instead of like trying to stifle that entirely, take that and turn it into curiosity. Find the weirdest person, maybe even like a little off-putting, the most off-putting person you can, and deliberately approach them. Say hi, try to find something you like about them, find interest and curiosity, and see if you can turn that around.
Yeah, that's great. And yes, so many of the self-care ones have some sort of corollary in community care, that if it's good for you to do individually, it's likely good to do for others. Yeah. What else? So the flip side of both the self-care and the community care is what's getting in the way? What are the challenges that get in the way of us doing this for ourselves and others?
Generation differences. Yeah, when you get to be my age, there are a lot of generations below you. And like the younger people don't smile at you, the older people do when you're walking around. And the younger generation are always looking at the screen. So anyway, there are differences, get quite different. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of that I think is that we could almost extend that to cultural differences, that there are like different cultures around communication and what we expect in our interactions with each other that are generational, or they could be cultural, they could be regional. I have a friend who has moved here from the South recently, and is very confused by how unfriendly everyone is, because there's a culture change, right? Yeah. And, same thing with if I'm ever on the East Coast, I'm like, what the heck? Yeah, online. Being able to get past your introverted nature to interact with others. That's another difference in communication and how to be, introverts and extroverts. Yeah. There's a lot of ways that we end up not connecting with each other for one reason or another.
We used to do these self-analysis where I worked, and every time I did one of those tests, I came out half introvert and half extrovert. So people don't know who's showing up with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so some of this means knowing your own communication style, knowing that about yourself, and extending the effort to interact with people who are different than you. Yeah, so introverts may have to steal up some energy to go out and interact with others. Extroverts may have to get quiet and make more space for others. Generations may have to recognize the difference in technology and communication styles. I have to remember who to call on the phone, who to email, and who to text. And it is mostly a generational difference. Some of y'all, I have to call you because you like to talk on the phone. Some of y'all, you want to do email, you're my age. And some of y'all, I have to text you, you're younger than I am. Yeah. So, Tori.
Again, I was just thinking, I think, again, there's sort of layers, and sometimes as an introvert, I think about, okay, sort of what's the lowest level that I can give today? And sometimes it's just showing up and being there, and that you don't necessarily have to do anything.
Being the person who shows up is absolutely, that's huge, just to show up. Yeah, Carbon? Political culture. MAGA seeks to divide, et cetera, so we must stand for our values. Yeah, that's another thing that is pulling people apart, for sure. The highly divisive political climate that we're in. Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, that's a little bit beyond the scope of what I plan to talk about today, you know, how to interact with people who are on the other side of this very painful political divide. But we are still in community with people who disagree with us, and that does make community care this difficult thing.
I think it's important to remember that MAGA people are also living their values.
So the point was that it's important to remember that MAGA people are also living their values. Yeah, people may have just very different values than our values. Absolutely. And when values and your own well-being and safety are incompatible, choose your own well-being and safety. I'm not going to ask anybody to be in community with a person who is dangerous to them. Yeah. And we still have this need in our larger community to have a healthy community of care. Yeah. All right. So there's a lot of things getting in the way, actually. We've thought of a lot of them. Now, community care can actually be a way that we can prepare our local community, this congregation, your family, any group size that you want to apply it to. Community care is a way to survive. Community care is a way to thrive even in the face of the external hardships. So there are a few areas of community care that we could pay perhaps more attention to. And the first value that we need to put in place with our community care is that we need to protect the most targeted or marginalized first. So in whatever is the situation that you were looking at, there's probably somebody who is most marginalized in this. You know, if you're talking about economic resilience, perhaps unhoused people are the most marginalized. If we're talking about some of the political things that are going on, perhaps trans people and undocumented immigrants are the most marginalized. So there's different things, but there's somebody that you need to put at the center of concern. And maybe that's you. And sometimes you are at the center of concern, and that is important too. But that's the first sort of ethic of community care as liberation. And then next slide, Carbon. And then there's types of community care that we can attend to. So the first type is mutual aid networks. And the concept of a mutual aid network is anything, so mutual aid is not charity. It's not that some people have a lot and they just give to the less fortunate. Mutual aid is a recognition that we're all in this together, and on some days, some of us are going to have something that other people need, and on other days, those people may have something that somebody else needs, and that by sharing those things, we're all better off. And so there's a lot of different kinds of mutual aid networks out there, and you may be plugged into some locally already, but examples are, there's lots of food aid, mutual aid. There's rideshare programs or people who have just pooled together to, give each other rides. There's legal aid programs, sometimes with volunteers, sometimes with somebody who's being paid to do it. And then there's, co-housing or other models like that. What sort of mutual aid can we think of locally that we'd like to lift up?
One thing I just found out is free tax help at the senior center in a lot of places. I can't remember who sponsors it.
Yeah. So at the senior center, there's free tax help, which is seasonally very appropriate right now. So if you are looking for help with your taxes, there's people that are there volunteering and helping with it. That's a great example of mutual aid. Any others?
I'm thinking of Buy Nothing groups and GoFundMes for people's medical care when they have a need.
I was thinking of, I forget the name of them, but the organization that's our Share the Plate, where it's primarily single parents who are on welfare coming together to help each other and not just both doing systemic change as well as providing more, I don't know, food. I don't know totally what they do, but yeah.
Yes, that's Power. That is our current Share the Plate.
This is kind of a random one. I don't know if it exactly falls under this category, but patronage to libraries, because libraries are good, safe spaces for people who don't have shelter, maybe during a storm, who need water, warmth. They have lots of resources and books, and it's important. I feel like libraries might be dying slightly as like public resources. It's important to just go there and be physically present so that you are counted and people notice you. And I think they keep track of how many people show up so that they retain enough funding. So even if you don't need anything from there, just spending time in these places that help people, not just libraries, and just being physically present shows that there is need and that there is desire for that, and people will fund it more.
And thank the librarians loudly.
Paula added, thank the librarians loudly. Yes, yeah, thank you. Caring Friends. Yes, so Caring Friends is our OUC mutual aid network. And if you're not part of Caring Friends and you'd like to be, you can join it. And basically, Caring Friends is it's a group that you get emails about somebody's in need. So-and-so has a medical appointment and needs a ride. Or we're setting up a meal train for so-and-so. And if you have a need, Wendy Tanner is our coordinator, organizer for Caring Friends. And so you can reach out and let her know, and then she can post to Caring Friends. So that is a great mutual aid example in this congregation. All right, so there's the next type of community care that is resilience is economic resilience. So it's just a slight flavor change from mutual aid, but this is any way that we can be more resilient around money. And so I put things up there like the National Bail Fund. So we live in a society where you stay in jail if you don't have the cash to pay to get out of jail. And so bail funds are a way that we can help take care of each other. That contributing when you can, any money that you can, to bail somebody else out. Just especially now with protests and people going to jail for protesting, bail funds are a way that we can help other people out. Yeah. So it was lifted up that, yeah, and for immigrants as well, yeah. And credit unions versus banks is another example of economic resiliency because they have a different mission. The bank's mission is to make money. Credit union's mission is usually to serve the community that it serves. And then barter systems. So anything that sort of does skill shares, direct barter, the free store, all of these things that also bypass the economic system. What other examples can we think of that might fall into this category, especially in our local community?
There's tool sharing in places where you can come together and buy a truck for the community's use and other power tools. It's really nice to have when you're doing a project.
Yeah, tool sharing for sure. And some libraries have a tool library, which is a cool feature. Yeah, I don't think ours does currently, but it's a very cool idea. Yeah, anything else? Riding the bus, yeah. So thank you for lifting up public transportation. Much like the library, here's another, public good that serves everyone. And our bus system doesn't charge fare, which is amazing. But ridership is counted, and that's used for advocating for funds for the bus system. So even if you don't need to ride it, yeah.
I've been to Tacoma with the Immigrant Detention Center. They used to just, when people could get out, they're far away from public transportation and everything. So there's an organization in Tacoma that takes an RV over there. And so when people come out of detention, they can go over to them. They'll buy them plane tickets. They'll show them how to get to the bus. They can make telephone calls to their family. They can get something to eat, some place to stay. It's just a very, very good organization.
Yeah, that's a great one. And then we've got one online, and then to you, John. Yesterday, I saw that the Seed Library is active again at Olympia Timberland Regional Library. Yes, it's a little metal box by the door. And Grub has a seed library also. You can get free seeds or leave your extra seeds over at Grub, which is our nearby neighbor. So yeah, ways to get seeds for the garden and trade seeds.
Thinking if food banks are big, and there's microloans.
Yes, both of those are great examples.
There's also, I don't know if this is countywide, but I live on the east side and participate in the Thurston County Food Network, I think it's called, where once every 2 months I work to I get a green bag and then fill it up with canned and other non-perishable food, and somebody comes and picks it up and does something good with it.
Yes, they take it to the food bank. Yeah, so that's a group that you can sign up with that will pick up your food donations directly from your house. It's a great program.
He's been waiting a long time. Does he need? Two things that I've been doing around Olympia is working at the community kitchen, feeding anybody who's hungry. They're not always homeless people, just people that run out of food by the end of the month. And now I'm teaching English to non-English speakers. Unofficially, no credentials, just chatting with them and helping them learn, which is a lifeline for immigrants.
Yeah, those are both great programs. The community kitchen always needs more volunteers. And if anybody else wants to, now you know that Paula is doing the English language learners. So you can chat with Paula. Online? There will be a Thurston County Fix-It Fair on March 7th in Yelm. That's very cool. So repair skills and keeping things going is also definitely economic resilience. Yeah.
My daughter was volunteering, I started volunteering at the medical supply. But you now have to pay for supplies because they've had to rent another place. They lost their free rent place. So not everything. There are some things that are free. But I think it's kind of sad because she had an experience, it was my daughter, because she's volunteering there. And she had experience with a lady coming in needing a wheelchair, but she couldn't afford the $150. Very sad. So just, anyway. Stay open on that.
Yeah, so the medical equipment bank used to have a free space for their rent, rent-free, and they were able to provide everything free of charge, and now they don't. They have to pay rent, so it's changed the model. Yeah, so they still need volunteers and still need help. So a medical equipment bank is another great example, like a tool bank, like a tool library. You need something, and you may not need it forever either, so it can be cycled through the community. They have been one of our Share the Plates. Yeah. Pepper was saying maybe we could fund them as a Share the Plate. Yeah, they're a great organization, and they have been a Share the Plate partner. Yeah. There's a lot of examples like this out there, and sometimes they are, small, scrappy little groups. And So a question is, what is something that you have either time, talent, or treasure that you could contribute to any of these? And then if you have a need, is there a group out there that could help with that need? And could I have my next slide, Carbon? So I want to talk about another kind of community care and resilience, and it's information. So this one, local news and trusted sources. Maybe you have noticed that there's a lot of stuff out there now that you can't necessarily trust. So how can we have information resilience as a community? And that can be things like the Jolt and Thurston Talk. There's these new forms of media that are trying to fill some of the holes. We still do have a local newspaper here. A lot of communities don't, but we do still have a local newspaper. And then also, how can we just share information as a community? Where are the online groups where you have trusted sources that can let you know what's happening? Where's the hotline for calling, when you see something and it needs a response? Where are those things organized? Anybody have anything like that they'd like to lift up in the local community?
Kind of on the spot here. I'll try to pull them up. I can't remember their details. But let's see, they're called the City of Olympia Rapid Response is a group you can join to share information about ice raids. They use the salute method. So if you want to share information about that, you need to know how many people are there, what they're doing, where they are they wearing uniforms, and what time you saw them, if they have any certain equipment or weapons. That's the kind of information that needs to be collected to have a proper response to ice raids.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, groups that form to collect information, to know what's going on, to get rapid response.
Well, I appreciate, now I forget what it's called, but the Faith Action Network, is that what it's called? That email, and then also I follow 5051, whatever the Washington one is, and then Olympia Indivisible and League of Women Voters. So I think identifying, early on, I admitted that I wasn't going to do my own research. So identified some groups that I trust and depend on them.
Yeah, so internally to the congregation, it's the Faith in Action alert list that you can join, and that is a place where we can share information about upcoming protests or other actions to take. And yeah, identify an organization that you trust, and even just being on their email list. I get a lot of emails, but the organizations that are given good local news, like Washington chapter of the Sierra Club, whatever you care about, there's probably an organization that you trust that is tracking that. Yeah. And let's go to the next category, which I think was culture, but we'll find out. Yes, it was. I remember the order of my slides. So cultural resilience is another that maybe this one surprises, doesn't fit easily within community care, but having a vibrant community also means that we get together and sing, that we get together for live music or art shows or festivals. And, that somebody's making documentary films out there or podcasts, and that's part of a vibrant community care as well, because that binds people together. And and creates more of an opportunity to create community identity and so many other things. So there's tons of this sort of thing happening in the greater Olympia area. So let's not try to list it all, but is there anything that anybody would like to highlight in our cultural resilience?
So the Soul Cafe at Traditions, whether or not they're having an event, is just such a safe and welcoming meeting place where everybody just feels okay. It's just really important, and it's there for us and has been for a long time.
I would say also the Asho Community Center in Tumwater. And you can follow them on Facebook if you use Facebook and get notifications of their events.
Yeah, a lot of places, if you follow them, they have a lot of events going on.
There's a grant through the city of Olympia called Inspire. You may have seen their logo around on different arts and science groups, but it's a really good program. It's funded through a local tax, and so if you see that logo, it might remind you to support that group and that particular program, because it can be expanded. They have a certain budget because the tax only collects so much, but the program, as far as I understand, has been a great success for many cultural programs, cultural access programs around the city. Yeah, and that program can be expanded. I think that would be great.
Yes. And online, the Procession of the Species and the Luminary Procession Studio, and they really bring people together. Yes, and it's procession season. The Procession Studio is about to open. Yeah, so these are all great. And like I said, if we really started to brainstorm cultural resilience in this community, there's a lot of it. But it's part of the whole community care network as well. So my last slide, and the last thing that I want to talk about, is how this is not an either or. It's not that you choose to take care of yourself or you choose to take care of community. This is a both. And so I made this Venn diagram, and it is by no means all-inclusive. You could stick a lot more things into the circles. But the way that a Venn diagram works is that the stuff that's in the center, in the overlap, means that it applies to both. And so those are a little small, so I'll read them out. The things that I think apply to both self-care and community care are letting yourself be cared for. That actually is kind of hard for a lot of us, because we may have a lot of cultural messages around not letting ourselves be vulnerable, not letting ourselves be cared for. Practicing healthy boundaries, and practicing accountability and repair. That's what I see as in the overlap zone, where we really get into both taking care of ourselves and taking care of our community is when we basically practice, you know what this looks like? This looks like covenant. This is what we do here when we have covenant with each other. We define what our healthy boundaries are. We define how we'll practice accountability and repair. And while this community, OUC, has an explicit covenant, there are implicit covenants in a lot of your relationships and community. And maybe there's also an explicit covenant. Many organizations do have something that they work up to define how they'll be together. And that's where we really can get into honoring and taking care of ourselves and honoring and taking care of others and community. Because it doesn't do any good to become a martyr to community and let yourself become unhealthy or burned out because you're just giving to community. You do still have to have that healthy boundary and take care of yourself too. So the other things that I put into the Venn diagram, under self, I put resting, therapy, exercise, eating well, meditating, hobbies, and addiction recovery. And in community, I put community meals, mutual aid, healing and discussion circles, advocating for others, public transit and other services, relationship and trust building. And we could put a lot more things in the circles. Yeah, but we had to stop because if we put too many things in, the font becomes too small to read. Yeah. So that's my last slide, and I would like to just leave a little bit of space if anyone has general overall comments or ideas about this challenge of taking care of self and community in these times. And so both online and in person, if anyone has something else that occurred to you during this 45 minutes. Online? Taylor shares, when I first started my job, we had to take a whole giant list of classes, most of them ethics related. I mean, it was a lot, and I do kind of see a little bit of this self-community care. That's good that there was some aspect of that at work, yeah. I mean, ideally, our workplaces are also communities, yeah. Anyone else? I'm gonna go back here and then to you.
A thing I saw in the Venn diagram, I was like, community meals, that's also eating healthily for yourself. And I realized like a lot of those do already have overlaps in and of themselves. A thing I do with my friends, we remind each other to take care of ourselves. We have like a Discord, and we have like a thing that pings us every day, like how much water have you had today, and we all brag about how much water we drank, or if we went outside, or like what we've been doing that we feel has been self-care. We share these things and inspire each other.
That's great.
I was going to add too to that Venn diagram that at OUUC, we have the opportunity for community meals and meditation to be community care and self-care at the same time.
Yes, we are trying to do a lot of these things here. Online? Mark shares, have the courage to ask for help. Yes, another part of that. And Liz says, thank you for all of this, including the last piece, also important. Yeah, thank you, Liz. Anyone else? All right. Well, I'm going to end here and encourage you all to enjoy some of this sunshine that we're getting. Remember that you also need light in your life. We are houseplants with complicated emotions. And let us continue on this journey of taking care of self and taking care of community together. I'll extinguish the chalice. May its light stay in our hearts until we meet again. Thank you all so much.